night of NXT. Our boy Joe Hendry starting off the show, Dan. Guarantee he's probably gonna have to. He's probably gonna say something to Trick after Trick. I don't know if you saw the TNA clip last week. Trick showed up and kind of karate kicked his head off, and it looked clean too. The way that Trick can do that, like rotating bicycle kick for a guy his size, that's pretty damn dangerous. I don't know if I would ever want to take that, but um, here we are, the day after Raw. I guess starting off, Dan. Uh, Overall, what did you think of Raw? And I do have a few questions for you about the show, which we'll go into detail with. But what are your thoughts?
I mean, I thought it was fine. Like, right? Like, it's tough, right? Because it wasn't it hasn't been the kind of Raw we've come
Yeah.
used to, right? We've been spoiled, right, with ever since the premiere for the most part, right? Because they've been big Raws, right?
Yep.
But mixed in that obviously is the first ever Raw after WrestleMania, like the run-up show to
Yeah.
WrestleMania, the run-up show to other pay-per-views. So I thought it was just a regular good show, like nothing special, nothing super special, but nothing all that boring either. It went quick. It moved real quick, I
Yes.
thought.
Yes. Do you think that's the time frame? Because it's not a 3 hour show anymore. That's why it feels. I mean, granted, they have storylines, and they're decent storylines that you have to turn into. They're showing off NXT characters, but it's still a good 2.5 hours, and then it's out, right? Like they get to the
Yeah.
point, right? Like, do you think that's part of it?
I mean, I think that's part of it for sure as far as like what it feels like, but I do think the pace of the show feels different too,
That's fair.
you know.
Yeah, no, that is fair.
So,
That is fair. I guess first things I had starting off. Uh, there's a story going around from Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful, our favorite Sean in the whole world, besides Shawn Michaels from the DX era. Because I don't know, this one he's kind of confuses me sometimes. But Heyman Stable wasn't expected to add a new. Sorry, Heyman Stable wasn't expected to add new members as of Mania weekend. That's interesting. So reading that seems like Braun was added as like an ad lib then? Like they felt like they had to get muscle in there, would you say?
maybe I'm gonna be honest, I don't often like doubt what Sean reports, but I do have trouble believing
Yes.
that particularly. Like I really do. Like it just seems like that wouldn't be the case, that they didn't have more plans. Like just having Seth and Paul doesn't seem long lasting enough.
So Sean reports one WWE source, dear creative of the situation, told us they watched the Fightful Raw review and echoed the sentiment that the stable should become one that other stables in the future get compared to, as opposed to following a previous template. Because it immediately started getting comparisons to what stable, Dan? Do you think? There's two stables. So what stables do you think? One, I'll give you the hint. One, I believe, was from the ECW era.
Oh, the Dangerous Alliance.
Correct. And which other
Which
one would you
which is
say?
funny because they've done a version of Dangerous Alliance in pretty much every promotion Paul's ever stepped into.
Yeah. Well, because,
Except WWE.
yeah, right?
Um the other one, I don't know.
It used to
I'm
have
not
a big
sure.
guys that used to go like this, Dan.
Oh, Evolution.
Yeah. That's what
Yeah,
those
Evolution. Yeah, Evolution. I wouldn't.
I don't
That's
see.
interesting.
Yeah.
I don't see that
Because you don't
at
have the
all.
past star, right? Like you don't have the past star, which is Ric Flair, that brings that like the accolades for generations, right? Like Seth has
Right.
accolades, but we're not gonna say his accolades are on the level of Flair, right? Like, you just can't.
No, and also like
and it's
Evolution didn't have a mouthpiece manager really. Like Flair kind of acted as like the mouthpiece manager and the old wrestler that still got in the ring, but they didn't have a Paul Heyman,
yeah,
right? Like,
yeah. So it's
I don't know.
interesting, right? Like it's like I get it. Um, I don't know if yeah, it's tough, right? Because I don't know. Like I'm trying to think, like when was the last time we had a stable where the main guy loved speaking or could cut a promo, but he also had a hype man on the side. Like we haven't like if you're doing a stable, that usually doesn't happen, right? Like if you have a guy that can cut promos, you don't usually have aka the wise man. Like Hunter and
Right.
Flair
You don't
could
need
cut
it.
right, exactly. It's kind of redundant at that point, right? Like Hunter and Flair could cut promos for Batista in order as they were coming up. So it kind of protected them from screw ups. So you can kind of see like Paul and Seth are there to kind of protect Braun, but I don't know. Like it's tough. See, now here's my worry with this. If you're telling me like this is all hypothetical, right? Because it's all subject to change based on how creative wakes up tomorrow and what they're feeling, what Hunter approves, based on injuries, based on anything that comes out in their personal lives. It's all subject to change. Especially like Paul hanging out with the OnlyFans models during Mania. And well done, Paul. Well done. Um, it's I think that's very lofty expectations that it's likely to fail if that's the standard. If you want this stable to be what every other stable compares itself to, because then do you know
Yeah.
like what those two guys would have to accomplish, right? You
Yeah.
would have to like those two guys would have to almost triple what the Bloodline just did for what the last 4 years, 5 years,
Mm-hmm. At least.
at least like for that to be a standard. So like that's why I'm kind of 50-50 on this story. Like yes, do I believe the source that Sean talked to said something like that? Yes, of sure, for sure. But at the same time, like that person close to creative, which is a phrase I hate. Like I just I can't stand that. But like do you think that guy close to creative is actually in the creative discussions with Hunter and with Sean and with the rest of the team? Probably not. Or if they are, they're probably the ones that are sitting in the back taking notes like Brian Jarowitz said in his book, right? So it's kind of,
Right.
you know, what I mean, that's like I get it. Like like if I had to say a percentage, I think 80% of that story is true. But I think it all like that 20% actually depends on who Sean talked to, right? Um,
Well, and the other thing to think about, like, I don't know if you paid attention yet to like some of the people who like did screen grabs of
oh no, I didn't
the
see any of that.
trailer. So there's that trailer for the new show that's coming in the summer. I
Creative
forget
show?
what it's called. Yeah, the show
Yeah.
with the behind the scenes on creative, which I we should talk about this in a little more depth. I absolutely love. I don't care about the people who say you're pulling the curtain back too much. Like, don't let your kids watch it then. Like, right? Like this is like the Santa Claus thing, right? Like eventually your kid's gonna find out Santa Claus isn't real. And I
Hey,
understand.
whoa, Dan,
Pull
Well, I got a 2-year-old that went on the way. Let's not yell that here.
yeah. Sorry, I should have also done
Whoa.
I should have done a spoiler warning in case
Yeah,
there's any kids, but
yeah.
in our three viewers. But either way,
7, buddy. We're
point
up to 7.
seven.
But go
Sorry.
on.
Point being is someday your kids are gonna find out, spoiler alert, turn down your volume, that wrestling isn't real too. And I love the fact that they're doing this. But anyway, we can talk about that at a
Yeah.
different time, certainly when it gets closer. But anyway, some people did some screen grabs. And in that one booking meeting, they do that little clip where there's a booking meeting, it's a big whiteboard, and it's got a WrestleMania card on it.
Oh, yeah,
But
I
what
saw that. Yeah.
but what's pointed out in that, and it makes perfect sense, Seth Rollins, CM Punk, Roman Reigns are in there are multiple matches listed for those guys, including the triple threat we got.
Yeah.
But there is Seth versus Punk. There is Roman versus Cody. There's I think I don't remember exactly, right? But there's Cena versus Punk, maybe. I don't know. There are multiple options, which I'm sure is partly a which way do we want to go, partly a plan B in case of injury, right? Like so. I agree with you. 80% is probably right. That booking person could also be paying attention to the plan B, which is nobody gets added,
Well,
right?
yeah, and don't forget, like you've been reading the book by Brian Garowitz, who was one of the top writers for WWE. They're all working on different things at different times because they don't know what's going to happen. So, like,
Right.
yes, there is a creative meeting, right, where they discuss the big storylines and what's going on, but then they all have the incentive of, like, hey, could this be different if we did this? Could this be different if we did that? Do we think this person could adjust to doing this, right? Because
Yeah.
it's, at the end of the day, as much as people don't want to believe this, it's a physical sport. And what happens in physical sports? Injuries all the time, right? We just lost Big E because some somebody that shouldn't have been in the ring was in the ring and didn't throw him correctly over his head.
Right.
That happens all the time. Just think about Asuka and Charlotte. Charlotte got hurt 2 years ago with being in the ring with Asuka. What happened with Asuka? I think a year and a half ago. She gets the same type of Charlotte injury.
Yep.
It happens. Like that's what they're incentivized to
Absolutely.
do. That's why they're writers. That's why Brian said in that book, not to spoil it, there's a home team, right, that's constantly writing for shows down the road, and they don't know if any of it's going to be used. And then there's a away team that actually goes on the road. And then they have Skype calls to bring everybody together. So this is just
Right.
continuity planning like anybody would do for any other business,
Yep.
right? So it's like, yeah, like we're obviously gonna get those things out there, and people are gonna jump to it. Um, but I just don't think it's. I don't know. I don't think it's terrible. Like yeah, like I agree. Like Sean is usually right like 9 out of 10 times, and that 10th time that he's not right, it's not because he's caught lying about something. It's just because WWE did a swerve, or somebody got hurt, or somebody failed a drug test, or there was a personal incident that occurred. Right? Like those are the only times you see Sean not being close to the truth. Um,
Right.
but yeah, I do agree with that show. I think it's a good idea because I think if you watch the Stephanie show, the way that she talks to these wrestlers in Stephanie's places, she does it in a way that she protects the character of the person. And I think
Right.
WWE is going to do it in the same way with the creative team, is just basically, I think it's going to be more of a business show, like just showing how they get everything done rather than talking about like current day stories. And let's be honest, they could go back to the glory days of Undertaker and Kane and like explain why they wrote the Brothers of Destruction storyline, or how like Evolution came together, or how they actually got DX, a real tank, to drive down the road to WCW, right? Like that's
Oh yeah.
all stuff in the history that they can say, yeah, this is how we, managed this or did that or whatever. Um, yeah, there's a a lot of sour attitude going on, like in regards to this story by Sean and like you said too that upcoming show, and it's just like it just doesn't make sense, right? Because we always wish that there would be more wrestling. Now that we have more wrestling products that just not wrestling in the ring, everybody's pissed off. It's like, but you just wish for more wrestling.
Right.
So you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. Um, but yeah, I agree with your sentiments on Raw. I thought for some time since the debut on Netflix, I feel like they set a different type of p- pace because it felt like a different type of show. And I don't know if that feels like because now it's on Netflix, so every show is a big show, or every Raw is a big Raw. But um, yeah, it just I don't know, it just flows better than SmackDown. And to be honest, if we watch this creative team or this creative show, which co- comes out in July, right? They said I think,
I think so, yeah.
and the creative team comes out and tells us, well, yeah, Raw feels better because it's not 3 hours long. I would 1,000% believe that's the issue. 1,000%.
Yeah. I don't, obviously we don't know for sure, but my guess is this like peek behind the curtain is going to be stuff for stories that have already basically
Correct.
completed, right?
Like,
Like
yep,
obviously they talk about this. WrestleMania is essentially booked a year in advance and they work towards it from that day on
yep,
and pivot when they need to. But otherwise, you kind of know what's going on before it's going on. Like, I'm assuming that we're going to see the discussions from a year and a half ago for the WrestleMania we just watched, basically.
yes,
You know?
without a doubt. Yeah, I I think this is just going to be another version of them doing that WWE Legend show, right?
Yeah,
Where they just talk about that stuff. I to the person that learned the hard way, you don't screw around with the business. And I think the quote that Hunter is told by Vince is, "You're gonna learn to eat dog shit, and you're gonna like it because that's the cost of what you did for doing the farewell goodbye at Madison Square Garden with the Click." Right? He's the
right.
last person I think that would blow up the creative side of the business because he's been through the worst of it. Right? So it's like I don't. Yeah, I I don't have any bad will to the show. I was actually very surprised they were going to do it because of, like you and I just said, the bullshit that they probably get daily dealing with it. I just thought that would be something that they didn't like. They kind of just want to avoid, right? Like, hey, let's whatever. Let's not get this or whatever. But yeah, it's interesting though. It is very interesting. Uh, the other thing I wanted to talk to you about with Raw. Um, so WWE's been calling it crossing the line whenever there's like an NXT WWE or sorry, yeah, they used it before for NXT, but now they're mainly using it for when WWE goes to TNA. How do you feel about the WWE like showing off? I mean, I think half the matches last night were one, two. How many matches were there last night?
Well, there was the tag match, then there was
Okay, yep. So the tag match, yep,
Roxanne and Rhea, the
yep,
tag match, Sammy and Braun,
yep.
um, and
Stephanie,
then Stephanie Vacker and I don't even remember who the hell she faced now. Oh,
I,
the from American
yeah,
Alpha Academy,
it's
whatever the hell it is.
yeah,
American made Alpha Academy.
it's Ivy Nile. Yep.
Yeah.
So half of those were people that you see regularly on NXT.
Well, and then you had the run-ins, right? With
Yeah,
so yeah. I mean, I don't have a problem with it. I think it's good. I do like this is another thing where I just laugh when I don't really care that he said it, so I'm not trying to pick on him, right? But and I said this last week, like when Nick Khan is like, "Oh, we don't sign talent for them to sit on the sideline," but then your show is like featuring people from a different brand half the time and not the people on the brand. So like if you want to critique it, that's the critique. I personally
yeah,
don't really like I'm not really making that critique, but I am pointing out that critique is out there and I at least accept it's a valid argument. I don't agree with it, but I think it's valid.
yeah,
Um, enough to talk about it. Um, But otherwise, I think it's good because my guess, I could be wrong, but my guess is this is a little bit of testing them out too on the main scene,
Exactly where I
right?
was going. Yep, they're preparing them.
Like, right. Like, even if you want to argue that NXT is virtually a standalone brand, which it virtually is, it's still not, it's still widely considered as a little bit of a junior brand, right? Because a lot of newer people go there first. A lot of people don't debut on Raw and SmackDown that aren't, you know, either returning to WWE or very established in the first place, right? Um, so I still see it as I don't know that I would call it a developmental brand anymore, but
No,
certainly a brand where they can do different things. And I guess I've never really paid attention. I guess I definitely haven't paid attention recently too, though. Like I'd be interested to see what the ratio of wrestling time, meaning active matches, versus promo and non wrestling time is as a percentage of the show compared to Raw and SmackDown. I mean, we talked about this last week. Like last week's Raw only had what, two matches?
two or three.
Two, like it like we didn't realize it until we kind of talked about it.
Yep.
Um, but my guess is you see more wrestling on NXT. You know, there's still promos,
Yeah.
obviously. There's still, you know, some backstage stuff and some storyline driven stuff, but you see a lot more non wrestling on Raw and SmackDown, is my guess. I've never really looked to see if there's stats about that, you know, but I'm sure somebody has it out there because I know that used to be a big thing, like in comparing AEW and WWE was, you know, in ring time during the show. You know, AEW for the longest time had, you know, 92 minutes of wrestling in 2 hours, and Raw had 33 minutes in 3 hours, right? Like, you know, so I know somebody out there does this, but the bigger point being is that NXT still to me represents a little bit of a introductory brand, maybe is the best way to put it for
I,
the most part,
I
and
kind
a
of,
building brand.
yeah, I kind of view it as like their training ground, right? Like,
Right.
like, like basically teaching athletes, like teaching the best athletes in the world how to live up to the WWE standards, and then teaching people like Stephanie and Jordan Grace and um Ricky Saints and Sean Spears, like the fine tuned WWE things, like where the camera is always gonna be, right? Like
Right.
what a ref expects you to do in like this type of situation, like that type of stuff, like stuff that like you can say that AEW like kind of messes on from time to time. So I haven't been keeping track of time, but as of right now, started off with Joe Henry talking to Trick and talking to the NXT roster. He gets attacked by that Shield 2.0 group that they had. You had followed by Ricky Saints versus Lexus King. So that's one wrestling match. Then you just went to a promo of Sean Spears talking to the family. So you're basically one out of three segments right now. And it's a
Yeah.
2 hour show. And I think you're getting um, the Tank and Tank tag match tonight for the titles. And I think you're also getting Io and Stephanie versus Julia. Or no, sorry, you get Io and Jordan versus Roxanne and Julia, I think, tonight. So you're getting at least those three matches. So yeah, I mean that's an interesting thought. I should probably pull that up for the next podcast just to compare. But yeah. So
Yeah, I'd just be interested in what that's like, but it's only more because it would solidify my point, which you and I are making the same point. Like, it's a training ground. It's a, you know, a introductory type brand. It builds stars that then can go on to the main roster and be the main attraction someday, right? And we're seeing the fruits of that now. And well, we've been seeing it, but we're certainly seeing it, right? Like Roman and Seth and all them, right? Like some people probably forget a time when they were, in theory, like the first version of NXT, right? Or
Well,
even if you go back FCW and stuff like that.
well, Punk kind of brought it up in his earlier promo, right? If there's anybody in charge of creating the Shield, it was him.
Well, right, but I mean, wasn't am I like misremembering Seth's role in NXT? What
He
was
was
he the
champion.
first NXT? He was the first one,
I
or
be, I
close
bel
to the one of the first one,
No,
right?
I think he was the first.
Right. So like the first actual NXT champion is Seth, and look at him today.
Yeah, July.
Roman was somewhere in the mix on that show for a while, wasn't he?
Yeah. And do you know who Seth beat?
No.
We almost all had a breakdown when this guy won the main roster title, the main roster big title at the time. Seth became the inaugural NXT champion by defeating Jinder Mahal in
Oh.
the tournament finals on July 26, 2012.
Yeah. So, but that's an interesting point too. So Jinder was there. I forgot about that, right? Jinder was there, although I guess he had been in the WWE in the past too, right? But like they kind of recreated Jinder, and then like he went on to for a while some bigger stuff in main roster.
Yeah,
Um,
and Roman was a bad guy when he debuted for NXT because he just got rebranded from FCW when he went by a Noya. So they changed a Noya to Roman Reigns. So he started off
right.
as a heel. So
Yeah.
and then yeah. So yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I I don't know. My dad still like refers to it as a developmental, but I think
Yeah, I think it's upgraded from
I do.
developmental. I wouldn't call it developmental anymore as much as like I would just say like this is a spot where we create the future of this company basically, right? And like
Yeah,
it you want to call it training, right? Like
sure.
it's whatever, like, but it's I mean developmental now is the ID program and the performance center in general, right? Like, and this LFG, you
Yeah.
know.
Well, and OVW and Evolve, they still
Right.
have. Or
Right.
no,
Yeah.
yeah. Did they buy OVW back from Elsno?
I can't remember, but you're right. I think they still have a role there with OVW, a connection there, and yeah, evolved and all that kind of stuff. And certainly, like I said, this WWE ID program is going to be the next step of that, where maybe they're not actively developing them as much as they're giving them some resources to allow them propel and
Right.
develop in their own way. I mean, just genius because then they're just going to sign them when they're ready, you know? Like they're just going to pump out stars in the future.
Yeah. Um. And you probably don't know this, but quick trivia question. Um. Do you do you remember, or you ever been told how Ambrose got the start, or what his main storyline was when he was starting with NXT?
I I I don't know if I ever knew or not, but if I did, I don't remember.
So this is back when he was tweeting at Mick Foley because he accused him of basically creating a generation of imitators, as he called them, and
Interesting.
he continued to like go after him on Twitter. But they never got to like actually wrestle because I think that's when Foley had his first like big medical issue back in 2012, right? Like, because I think he had a stroke or heart attack or something that they were like, I don't know if he's gonna like bounce back from this. So he was kind of not allowed to do it. And then he debuted in a dark match of the first tapings of NXT on May 17th, and he lost to Xavier Woods.
Oh, that's right. So Xavier Woods, he had a whole different gimmick at first too, didn't he?
I believe so, yeah. Yep. Yep, yep,
Yeah.
yep. So it's interesting, man, right?
I always forget too because Xavier Woods was kind of a TNA guy for a while too, wasn't he?
Was he a TNA guy?
Yeah, I think he had a whole different like gimmick in TNA. Like he looked like not Apollo Cruz, but actually I mean like Apollo Creed, like which I think was a play on
Oh,
his name being Austin Creed.
Consequences Creed. I think it was.
Consequences Creed. But I'm pretty sure he wore like the American flag shorts.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Consequences Creed. Yes.
and another trivia note: Punk picked Ambrose. Do you know who WWE management at the time wanted as the third member as the Shield? I could give you his
Um
tagline if that helps.
it was no, wasn't it um I know who it is. I can't think of the freaking name. Cassius Ono. Wasn't that his name at one point? It's not the name most people would know him by. It's the
Feed
only name I can think of.
no, but the tagline
Oh.
is "Feed me more."
Oh, Ryback.
And
I thought Chris Hero. I thought it was Chris Hero. I thought you
eventually,
wanted Chris Hero to be that guy.
but then Vince was sold on it being Ryback. Obviously, right? Because Ryback Vince fits the picture of a Vince guy, right? Steroids, can't turn to wipe his own ass, can't really talk out loud, but he's a big dude. They were down. Chris Hero was
Oh, it
mentioned at
was
the time.
Roman. It was Roman who replaced Chris Hero.
Yes,
That's
yes,
the
yeah,
story. Punk
yeah,
wanted Hero, and they went with Roman.
yes,
Okay, that's the connection.
yes. But then, which is also funny, because in November 2012, the first person that they triple pile bombed was Ryback. World comes full circle, Dan. Full circle.
Yeah, yeah. Well, how's that going for them?
Yeah. Um.
I mean, whatever.
No, I know, right? Um. But yeah. So back to the Raw. We get a little trivia trend or tangent there because our brains just happen that way. Um. I guess yeah. So we'll come back to this new faction with Seth and what it did with Sammy. Um. So you're cool with all the crossover with NXT then?
Yeah,
For
I
for the
think in
most part,
general,
do
yeah, like
do you ever think it'll be too much?
yes, I do. And for the reason I mentioned, right, that it could be too much because someday you're not featuring the people that are actually on the brand.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah, I agree. I think they got a good mix of getting like NXT involved, but then opposites of those NXT people are the main roster people. And it's been making sense who they've been putting them in the ring with, right? Like it makes sense that Stephanie can put on a good match with Ivy Nile because she's a good athlete. Not, I don't know if you would call her a great wrestler, but she's a great athlete. And Stephanie can carry her the rest of the way when it comes to a wrestling match. Same thing
Right.
with putting Stephanie and Io in a match. They can go in any type of match, stadium, 15 people event, 3,000 people event. They know what to do when they're in the ring. So yeah, I'm enjoying it, and it's good because I feel like it gives them a lot of exposure to people that might not watch. So that's always cool too, because then it helps viewers turn into the NXT stuff tonight. Um,
Yeah.
so the other big thing was We kind of have Becky in a recycled storyline, huh? I mean, we just had Naomi a couple months ago say she was the one that put Jade on the shelf, and now we got Becky coming to say she put Bailey on the shelf. Is that the only
Yeah,
storyline that Hunter has for females? You think? If your name's not
I don't
Jordan,
know.
Stephanie, or Io, like,
I don't know. I think that's a tough. I think that's a tough take though, because like this is all wrestling ever is. It's just rehash of stories with little twists here and there, you know. But
um,
this goes. You and I had this conversation. I don't know, a month or two ago. Like this goes back to the conversation of, for whatever reason, and this is another one where I just feel like this, the women's division in WWE in general, in Raw and SmackDown, for, I don't know why it's better in NXT than it is in the other. I just think it's underutilized, and that might be regurgitating storylines that you just did, right? Like, and it's not like they don't have talent. I just don't understand it. Like, you passed on Bailey, right, for whatever reason, and you just had, and to be honest, you only had her in a tag match anyway,
right.
which didn't make a ton of sense. You like, okay, you had Jade and Naomi, and that's fine. I think that's just a stepping stone for Jade, right? Like, you know, you've got Becky back now. You had Charlotte back. You have Rhea. You have Io. You have Bianca, right? And then you have some like fill-ins and like some other game players that can play a very certain and good role with these, you know, seemingly megastars in your women's division that you have. And then we get what we got at WrestleMania, and we get this now, and we're kind of rehashing a storyline on a different brand that's happening on the other brand. Charlotte might be gone again. Like, I just feel like for whatever reason, they just don't do it justice some days. Not like they used to. It was different in the past. I mean, remember when the women's matches were like, in a lot of cases, like more people were excited to watch those than some of the men's matches. Like
Yes,
we
yes.
had women main eventing these pay-per-views and stuff, you know, because that storyline was the most intriguing one, or that match was the one that people wanted to see the most, right? And like, yeah, some injuries and things like that, and some, you know, backstage walkouts and stuff like that had changed the landscape a little bit, but like, not that you couldn't have recovered from, you know. I don't know.
Um,
I mean, I mean, no disrespect to Becky now, because like, you know, seemingly people aren't as excited, you know, maybe whatever. But I mean, her the man storyline was the hottest thing going a couple years ago, right? Like,
so great point. If she, okay, real quick, Bailey, Charlotte, Becky, Sasha,
yeah,
rank them.
Bailey, Charlotte, Becky, Sasha. Rank them on what though? Because like I could rank them probably four different ways depending on, I mean, if we want to just go general overall, but if you want to talk like ability or whatever, like,
I would.
because the other thing is like I would rank Sasha a lot higher if I could forget about her leaving WWE,
That's perfect.
right?
That's fine. Just yep. Just from the WWE standard, just give me your overall. If you were in charge of creative, how would you have them ranked?
I think I'd probably have,
And
if
don't.
I
Yeah.
if I don't think about Mercedes Monet and only think about Sasha Banks, I'd probably put Sasha up top with Charlotte, Becky, Bailey for me, right? I think that's very interchangeable. I just think Sasha and Charlotte at one point were two of the best they had. They had some of the best like trio of matches and storylines. Um, Becky then became one of the hottest women wrestlers on the scene for a while. Bailey, for me personally, nothing against like her talent and her ability, but maybe just for a while too, the hugger character just wasn't my thing. I thought she was a great wrestler, but she always to me seemed to play a little second fiddle to Sasha, you know? And host Sasha, I think she's been a lot stronger and she had some good stories. And then like Charlotte before some injuries and just a little bit of like her own maybe arrogance was also really good. And then her and Becky could put stuff together, and Becky could really, I mean, that Becky, like I said, that Becky, like Broken Nose Becky and Two Belts Becky, and Two Belts Banks, those were two of the top people they had at that time. How many years ago is that now? 3, 4, 5 almost?
2018, I think.
7 years ago. I can't believe it's even been that long. It doesn't feel like it's been that long, but like bloody face Becky leading into what, Survivor Series or whatever, when it
I
was
think so.
SmackDown versus Raw, and Nia accidentally, like, or whoever it was Nia, right? Breaks her nose, and then, but that picture of her standing in the crowd with the blood running down her face, I mean, iconic at the time, right? Because it just sent her to another level. But then I think of, like, I think, was it maybe either no holds barred or like a falls count anywhere match that Becky and Sasha had, where Sasha did the bank statement on the on the railing of the stairs. You remember that? Or not the bank statement. What was her, like, submission move called?
Yeah, the bank statement.
Bank statement, right? And she did that to Charlotte on the railing in between the seats. Like I just remember that match specifically as like one of a really good match that those two had, and they were at the top of their games back then. Like, I guess that was a long drawn out way of ranking them, but that's more of just, like, I guess, a personal ranking when I think of over the last, let's say, 7 years. You want to talk about in-ring ability today, and if I have to bring in
No,
Sasha's
you don't.
AEW run?
Yeah, you don't have to go today. That WWE
Yeah,
standard's fine.
yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
But now it's like, now I think about Rhea, and it's like, I don't know, I'd probably put Rhea at the top today.
Oh yes, well, without a doubt,
You know,
she's at the top. You have to say she's at the top.
imagine if you could have had today's Rhea with those four 7 years ago.
I don't. So
You know,
to go with my my upcoming statement, Becky owes everything to Nia Jax's right hand,
sure.
and I don't. And I think without that right hand, and I get what she was able to do based on the opportunity she's given. It's not nothing against that. I think she's very forgettable. I think if you could go back at any period of time and you can make a case for Sasha, Charlotte, or Becky being the number one female wrestler at that time. I think the opportunity given to Becky was they saw how the crowd loved the blood and the broken nose, and they're like, we're going all in. And that's one of the smartest decisions creatively that they've ever made, is we're going all in with her. Because the crowd just loved that aspect of seeing a female continuing the match after getting her nose shattered, and they know she had a concussion because of how big her eyes got, right? So, like, they knew, oh, she's dealing with it. Like, the way that we joke around and say it's still real to us, that moment in time made it feel 1,000% real to the crowd because it was. And
Yeah,
that's what WWE ran for. I think if you have Bria back at that time, which is all hypothetical, right? Like, it's the same thing as we constantly hear, because we watch every other sport, the whole Jordan and LeBron debate, or Kobe and LeBron, or like if you put Aaron Judge in the steroid era, does he go in and hit like 80 home runs, like the type of thing, right? Like, is like that type of stuff. It's all hypothetical. But I think if you had Rhea back then, I think Becky would become very forgettable. And
I
creatively,
um
yeah,
I don't disagree, but the only thing I want to challenge on that a little bit is that I think that's just the nature of wrestling too, though.
sure, it's
Right? Like,
yeah, it's the
you put in
opportunity. Yeah,
right, you put in enough of a body of work that you're not irrelevant, and then a moment like that happens, and then you
it just
skyrocket
catches.
overnight.
Yep.
And it's not exactly the same of an example, but I'm going to use it anyway. That was her Austin 316. I'm gonna kick your
Yeah.
Austin just kicked your ass moment,
Spot
right?
on.
Like, obviously he became, like, a level that you just don't see,
Right.
but prior to that moment, he was relevant enough that fans were interested in him, but he wasn't. It happened overnight because of that, basically, and like that's that story. Like Bruce Pritchard tells that story perfectly of like how they joked around, like print it on a T-shirt, but it's never going to sell, and it's one of the best-selling T-shirts of all time, right? It's even to a degree, it's Scott Hall coming down out of the crowd, right?
Yep.
Like Scott Scott as Razor Ramon was a great wrestler and had a great legacy in WWE as Razor Ramon, but he is not remembered the way he is today without the NWO and the you know who I am, but you don't know
No.
why I'm
Yep.
here, right? Like there's all those moments, right, that happen that you capitalize on, but to capitalize on them, you have to at least be relevant to start,
Sure.
right?
That's fair. Yeah, and
Right?
that's
Because if I don't know if Triple H ends up winning. You know, it's always funny to talk about that, right? Triple H was supposed to win that King of the Ring until
yes.
the curtain call.
Yep.
I don't know if Triple H's career propels if he says, you know, I'm I'm HHH 316 says I just kicked your ass, right? Like, you know, I don't know. You know, it's very interesting.
Yeah, no, I agree. You at least have to put in the work to be in the area of that opportunity. But then again, you could still say the same thing for the matches Charlotte put on when she took the NXT title. And you could say the same thing for Bayley and Sasha. 30-minute Iron Band match for the NXT Women's Championship. First time that's ever been done with that stipulation for females. First time a female match has main event a pay per view. They were pay per views back then, I believe. Right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I'm
like,
sure they will.
and that's what gave the black and gold back then a huge boost because they saw that match and when Tunter, there's an interview that's out there. Tunter gathered everybody around afterwards, and he said that is now the standard of what NXT is expected to live up to, right? So it's like they all have they were relevant enough for this opportunity to either be given to them or a one-off incident to give them that jetpack to take them to the top, right?
Right. But
So
you knew too, right? And but they knew, right? Like they didn't calling them the four horsewomen in
they
NXT.
they knew that
That
they were somewhat destined. They didn't know
right, right.
whereabouts that they would be, but they knew. Yes, I would
Yeah,
agree.
that wasn't hyperbole. That
No,
was because they had it. You know, maybe it was a little premature, but it wasn't hyperbole. Like they had it, and given the right opportunity, they were going to seize it. And in their own way, they all did.
yeah,
Right?
yeah,
They all did. They might not have all had the broken nose Becky moment, but they all had different things that happened and different storylines that and matches that put them on their own respective maps for sure.
yeah. Agreed, agreed. Um, Leading us back to Raw and Mania, I think the only thing I would have did differently is I still would have had Bayley in the tag match, and then have Becky just come out and screw her over in the tag match,
Yeah, I
rather
don't
than Bayley
disagree
be
with that.
hurt, Bayley be surprisingly hurt because of a backstage attack, and then she's off air and she's not doing anything. When you could still kind of have Becky and Bayley go at it, and then Lyra be thrown in there to go at Becky, and then Becky can go pull somebody up from NXT, like, or have Roxanne Perez at the side of Becky because Bayley and Roxanne have gone at it before. I think that was the one hiccup that my brain was still stuck on with WrestleMania. Is that could have been I I guess it's a long-winded way of saying that could have been done better.
Yeah, I don't disagree on that. I think it's weird. I'm still going to hold out hope that there is a bigger thing coming here that's really going to grab us because of what Triple H said of like, don't worry, guys, Becky or Bailey will be fine. Like, because obviously he knows what the plan is.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt for now that, while I agree, like, you could have done it that way, and I think it would have been just as effective and impactful. Um, Maybe where we're going will be better, you know,
So
hopefully,
to get to
you
the
know.
end of this part of the conversation, do you think we see Bailey at Backlash?
I don't know. When we start to talk about that, I have no clue what they're doing with
Yeah.
Backlash here because, like, when you think about what they've got going announced, right? I guess, do we have 3 matches announced already or just 2? 3, right? I guess we should start talking about Back unless we have any more on Raw. Oh, no, we probably do have more on Raw,
Yeah.
but
Well, we can get to this point afterwards, but we have Gunther and Pat McAfee. And
yeah,
then
which is
coming from this Becky thing,
weird.
we have Becky and Lyra for the title.
Okay, so we do have 3 then because we have Cena and Randy too.
Yes. So, yeah, then Cena and Randy we can do about. So, yeah, so you have 3. So, what do you think this ends up as? I'm saying 5. 4 or 5.
I think it's 5 just because they confirmed 3 so quickly. Yes, I
Yeah.
agree. Um,
Dude, so do you think we get Bailey at Backlash? And does Lyra drop the title?
I think Lyra does drop the title. I don't know if they have different plans for her somewhere else. I do think she does drop the title. Um, and then I don't know what's happening from there, but I think something. Whether or not we get Bailey, um, I don't know yet. I don't know yet.
I'm saying we get Bailey. She helps Lyra keep the title, screws over Becky, get your way into Becky to verse Bailey.
Maybe.
At least
Yeah.
I'm calling that because that's at least what I'm hoping for. So,
Right.
like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I think Lyra's great with that title. The crowd is catching on to her intro song when they do the whoa, like every time it's called for. Like they
Yeah.
they know it, so that's good that she's on the brain that much that they know it. So let's not blow that opportunity. But it's like that's the only thing that makes sense to me. If you just have this go and like Becky cheats, beats Lyra, and takes the title, then you might as well just have Becky be the side piece to the stable for Seth and Paul and Braun then as well. Just throw her in the stable because like Becky cheating, beating Lyra, and taking the title, not interesting to me.
Right.
And I think it hurts the title more than what Lyra's been able to build with the title. And then I think it hurts Lyra as well. And it's like, well, then you might as well just send her down to NXT because nobody's going to think she's on the top enough level to take a title from Becky or any of the top females, right? So then what is she doing? She doing dark matches? Like, she doing one off matches against Ivy Nile? I'm not interested in that. Like, it's, you know what I mean? Like, what are we doing? It just doesn't make sense. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, toes crossed, everything that says we get Bailey at Backlash. And then that's kind of a surprise, I guess you would say, right? Like if Bailey's supposed to be out hurt, shows up in a hoodie or something, boom, there we go. So,
Yeah.
yeah, but to get to the next match and one of the other points on Raw, does Gunther walk away from this unscathed if he gets beat by Pat McAfee?
I I don't think he's gonna get beat.
But
I
just
don't
in
think
case
Pat's
if
gonna win.
yes, I think Pat's gonna
Um,
get obliterated.
I don't know if he's gonna get obliterated. I think they're gonna let him have a really good showing. What I just don't. I mean, I understand why they did it. Like, I mean, as far as storyline, but I don't understand why we're getting this story.
Yeah,
Like, that part I really don't understand. Like, why are we getting Pat wrestling and it's Gunther? Like, I, I'm really confused on why we went this direction. Like
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
why he attacked like whatever, but like what's the ultimate goal there? If the ultimate goal there was just to get Pat in a match, I don't understand that. It's very random, so I'm assuming there's more coming here, like maybe at Backlash, like I don't know, wild card suggestion, Corey Graves comes out and attacks Pat McAfee during the match. Like I have no clue what's going on here.
Yeah, but that's the
Um
thing. I think we all, because Corey said it before a handful of times on Twitter, he's never gotten cleared, which could always be fixed. But like,
oh, I thought the story was he had been cleared.
I, I thought he was close to getting cleared from the concussions, but he never got there.
Oh, I don't know. I thought I had read he did get
Yeah.
cleared.
So I mean, but it's not like it
I mean, I
matters,
don't
right?
think that I don't know that I think that's really going to happen. I'm trying to figure out what's the angle here because if you're just having a random match, like I don't get it. Like you I'd rather see Penta on the card, right?
Yes. Oh, 100%. Give.
Like I have no interest in this match unless it's leading me to something I can't see right now. And then I'm like, okay, this is great. It's just very odd and it was set up so quickly and announced right away. It's just like I don't because it's like it involves Michael Cole and like what are we doing here? Like I don't know. I don't know. I'm very confused by it, and I don't have a lot of interest in it.
I don't either.
Um,
I
and like I said, like unless they shock me with like, oh, this was getting us somewhere else, like okay, great, but like I don't know. Like I, to be honest, I'd rather see a Gunther J rematch than I want this. And I don't really want to see a Gunther J rematch, but
I would
I'd
rather
rather see that.
I would rather see Gunther come out pissed, complaining again on the mic, and say, "I don't care who's back there. Somebody's getting an ass beating. Come out there tonight." And then it'll be a surprise entrance. And then
Yeah,
even if we get Joe Hendry again, I'm happy.
anyone. I don't get it at all because also like something I'm sure is going to get quite the reaction out of you. I really don't care to see Logan Paul and Jey Uso.
Yeah, I, I
I don't
don't,
I don't know what they're doing
I
there.
don't care to see it that fast.
I'm really interested what the people in the locker room think about that one.
Well, probably the same thing they thought when he got the title shot against Roman at the Crown Jewel, right?
Oh, that's right. I totally forgot about that. I think I read that out. Like I moved that out of my like mind solely because like it was a Saudi Arabia show. So for that reason, I didn't care as much.
Yeah, yeah. If it's an area where women can't drive, I don't consider that a wrestling show. That's just a PR event. Like that's kind of where I'm at with those shows. I don't think I've tuned in for the last 4 years that they've had them, 3 years that they've had them, and it's not just because of the weird time frame of them. I just don't care to see them. But soon, we're probably gonna have a WrestleMania over there because didn't they just announce Mania in London?
I don't think they announced it yet, but there was a story that the mayor of London is still hopeful to get it. I think.
Yeah, yeah, and I think the story is Jesus. It's Sadiq Khan. Is there a Khan everywhere?
Actually, I do think it's like the I do believe it's like it's the same as like Smith is over here. Like
Wild.
everybody has. Yeah.
But I guess the earliest possible rumor off the story was 2028 because 25 was in Vegas. New Orleans and Nashville are currently slated to host 26 and 27. So we
26
just
and 27. They're going to get two in a row.
do New Orleans 26, I believe, and Nashville's 27.
Well, I know Oh, yeah, yeah, Nashville. Yeah.
So, just so you know, we had another promo segment with Trick, in a backstage segment with him just walking in full of the baby oil that appeared to be at a P Diddy party, and so add that to the non wrestling events, and now we have a Hank and Tank tag match. So what is that? 2 events to 4 non wrestling events, I think. So, yeah,
Yeah.
and then your boy Penta got some show on Raw.
Yeah.
So next week he's getting a shot at JD McDonough, correct?
I believe so. Yes.
So that's always good to see him, right? And then we had Rhea. Yeah, because the War Raiders defeated Finn and JD to get next in line to get their titles back, which I hope they just get the titles back. I don't care for New Day. Any thoughts on that?
No, I don't care either. I
Um,
don't mind. I don't mind the story. Like I really don't.
no,
Like in
I
general, but it doesn't like it doesn't catch me either. You know.
I think I'm at the point where I'm comfortable saying I think the War Raiders have better potential right now than the New Days holding up the tag titles, and I'm okay with saying that right now. Um,
Yeah.
on Raw, we also had Logan Paul calling out Jay, and then it basically ended with Logan getting sweet chinned. And then towards the end of the show, right, Jay got caught backstage by Logan's right hook, the titanium fist, as he calls it, or whatever it is, and lays out Jay. So we're obviously getting that. And then we had Rhea defeating Roxanne by DQ because Julia got involved. And then they both attacked Rhea. So Io came out. So that's how we get Io and Jordan tonight versus Roxanne and Julia, which good match again. And I'd like to see the top NXT female talent in there with Rhea. I feel like she can really help them tie things together. And sometimes I feel they got to slow down a little bit. And I think she's the perfect one to help them slow down because everything she does looks stiff, but it's also very protective of the other person. So it's kind of counterintuitive. Um, and then we finished off the show right with Sammy giving his answer and a Braun versus Sammy match. What's your thoughts on that ending of Raw? Let's start there, and
I
then
mean, pretty
after
violent.
yeah, and then after that, well, who do you think they could add in next? Because I have an idea, but I wanted to hear your thoughts on that.
I don't know. I keep thinking about that. As far as like who they might add. Um, I'm not really sure who I think like there could be a weird swerve of it being Sammy, but then I don't love that idea because like they made a point to have Sammy say the thing of like you're just recreating the bloodline. So adding him is like another step towards recreating the bloodline. Um
Correct.
I don't know. Like who's your idea?
Well, first off, I agree that the ending segment was very violent. I'm thankful for the curb stomp being back because I feel like it's a perfect finisher to be pulled off in these types of like end of episode promo slash like ass beatings that occurred the past couple of weeks. Because it doesn't take much for the curb stomp to look potent, right? It gets the point
No.
across right away. And Seth does it perfectly if he's wearing sneakers, if he's wearing the Bray Wyatt boots, like he did it the first time against Roman and Punk. Like it just makes sense that that is a potent finisher. Um, who I think they're gonna add. So I have 2 guys, and they both kind of have the same style. I can see it being Drew,
Okay.
because then I think you could restart that Bloodline slash CM Punk hunted storyline that Drew had that all of a sudden disappeared, because then he has the power of Paul and Seth to basically let him do whatever he wants, and then he knows he always has Braun backing him up in his corner, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, ideally, this person is a New Japan hire. Do you want to take a guess?
New Japan hire
Yes.
AJ? No.
Jeff Cobb.
Oh, Jeff
Braces
Cobb.
recently signed.
Oh, I didn't realize they signed him. I forgot about that. Either that or I didn't realize. But yeah, you actually just made me think of another thing because I don't know when he's coming back, but I almost wonder about Bronson Reed, actually.
Yeah, with the broken legs, right? Or broken ankles.
Yeah, so like I'm not sure if he's anywhere close after all that, but if he
So,
is, like I could totally see that.
funny part is, if you look up a picture of Jeff Cobb and Bronson Reed, they're built in the same style. They
No,
both
I
just
know
look
that's yeah,
human
that's why
bowling
you made me
balls.
think of it. Well, I remember like watching Jeff Cobb in AEW, so like I remember that's what made me think of Bronson Reed.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. I mean, right? Like that. That makes sense to me. He's like wrestling fans that in our demographic, our generation, which is mainly who's buying the shows, right? Like buying the product to the shows. They know who Jeff Cobb is, so this will hit well, right?
Right.
Um, so I think it makes sense for them just to bring in this bowling ball of a human and say, "All right, like Seth said, you're not with us. You're not transferring shows. We're running right through you because we are the future of wrestling." Right? Like it makes
Yeah.
complete sense. Um, Side note, you know how I told you that Joe Hendry was talked about, like attacked by that Shield 2.0 group? Well, they just showed Oba Femi backstage talking to Taker, and now it looks like Taker has his three guys from LFG backing up Oba. So that's a good way to get that talent involved, I guess.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So, but yeah, back to that. I think, yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I could see Drew. I could see Bronson Reed. The only thing, the only thing is that Seth would, with the Bronson Reed thing, Seth would have to come out and basically explain how Bronson and him buried the hatchet, right? Like Seth would have to come and say, "We are the future of wrestling." Bronson, although that Bronson and I have gone at it numerous times, I understand that this is what the future of wrestling needs or something, right? And then all of a sudden, cool,
Yeah.
good to go,
Yeah, I
right?
mean, I think that's
Cleans it
that's an
up,
easy
yeah,
yeah,
clean,
that's an easy thing to do. You could also have Heyman kind of explain that away. You know, you could have Bronson Reed do look, I've been away a long time and it gave me time to think and
yep,
reflect, right? Like that's the easy thing to do.
yep. Um, yeah, and the only other thing I wanted to talk about, um, did you catch Rusev's promo live?
Yeah. Yep.
What's your thoughts?
I thought it was good. I know where most people are going with this, with the language he specifically used. I actually didn't take it that way. It's not the first thing I thought of like he called AEW an abyss or whatever the hell he called, whatever he said. I don't see it that way. I
Oh,
see it more of him just kind of like acting like he was gone from here as if his story is picking back up, but different, right? Like, I just see it as him saying, look, when I left, I was fighting for Russia, right? I had a wife who was my, whatever. And then I left and I went back to Bulgaria and I realized like I was never really fighting for that country. My relationship should not be a part of my wrestling journey, specifically. And I was in a dark place or whatever. I just took it as like just story, like, oh, I've been gone for 3 years, or however long it's been. I don't know how long it's been. I know a lot of people were like, oh, he just said AEW was a black hole or a dark hole or whatever the hell the
So
language is he is.
yeah, he said Abyss. So I was my first thought, as much as I like to pile on AEW sometimes, was not AEW. I don't know if
Yeah.
yeah, it was not AEW. I specifically went straight back to that being a shot at Vince, right? Because if you remember when the stories came out when he first left, Rusev and Vince, like, he basically said they had a disagreement on every type of storyline or every type of match that was brought forward to Rusev from Vince and from creative, being told, listen, this is what the guy at the top wants, this is what you got to do. Because Rusev wanted to go into more of like a nuanced character rather than just being this straight beast from Russia that runs through everybody, right? And it's kind of, if you think about it, it's similar to what we see for Karrion Kross. Supposedly,
Right.
the only thing set up for Karrion when he did that promo with Sam Roberts was the fact he was just gonna have an interview, and then Karrion decided to turn it into a fine. If they don't have faith in me, then I'm gonna do something to make them have faith in me. And there's reports that came out from Sean Ross Sapp afterwards that said they talked to people backstage, and backstage managers and personnel were surprisingly impressed, and they didn't know if that was something Karrion can do, but now they feel the urge because everybody bit on that promo that they have to write Karrion time and they have to
Yeah.
get him involved. So I kind of feel it's like the same thing as that, right? Like these guys are very talented, but we kind of knew. Like once you saw the step one of a Vince McMahon storyline, you could have probably told us what step 25 was going to be, right, Dan? Like,
Right.
and I feel like that's what locked in a lot of wrestlers being okay based on what they were getting paid at the time, but they kind of just got sick of it. Kind of like how if you work a corporate job and you can tolerate it for so long, but then all of a sudden you're just like, well, what's out there? And like they had to take that shot to see if they could do that type of schedule elsewhere or were they going to be used elsewhere, right? So it's kind of like they had to test the waters. Um, and to be honest, from everything that we heard at the time, I think that's strain that was put on the relationship with Lana, and then they both were going through their own crap, and then you know it kind of just spun right because of a toxic work environment that they were felt in. I don't think the
Right.
Abyss thing was um a shot at AEW. To be honest, the dirt sheet in me was when he said Abyss. Since they have such great contacts at TNA now, I was kind of hoping to see Abyss appear in the background. I would have been like, "That's awesome! Let's go,
Well, he works there.
Bruce of
He
an
works
Abyss."
there.
Yeah, he's on creative.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, let's go, Bruce of an Abyss. Hell yeah, I'm in for it. um,
Yeah. I think he's in ring retired. I could be
Oh yeah,
wrong.
he's been a while retired. Yeah.
Yeah.
Father Time definitely caught up to him. Like he catches us
When
all.
you do the shit he was doing too.
Yeah, but then he also was so good at throwing people corner to corner, right? Like everybody looked like a Nerf football in his hands. Um, but it's very intriguing to to see, like, it feels like these wrestlers are allowed to touch more into their personal side for these promos and get out there and test things, right? And then if it fails, it fails. But like they're allowed to be like, all right, well, give me one shot to see what I can do at this, and then I'm gonna go do it, right? So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, I think we brought this up last week. He looks in incredible shape.
Oh yeah. I mean he.
Incredible shape.
I
He
mean
never
he
looked
looked.
bad, but he just looks.
No.
He
He
just looks
looked.
ready to
He looked
roll.
pretty good. He looked pretty good in AEW too. Like he had kind of
Mm-hmm.
transformed. Like you said, he never looked bad, but he
No, but Vince always w-
his
w- wanted him bigger, right?
yeah his
So he put on the
AEW
weight.
yeah his AEW run he cut he just got more cut
Yeah.
like right like and that has stayed true like
Yep.
he dropped a little weight and turned it more into cut muscle and
Agreed.
yeah he looks super good
Yeah.
like it's gonna be interesting to see what he does it's getting interesting because you know with him returning and Aleister Black returning and some of the other guys they have and like some more that I'm sure are still debuting in the future and or bringing up from NXT like they got a lot going on there. They got a lot of ways they can turn.
Yeah, which is great, right? Like,
I think we talked about this before he like officially came back, right? Like was he going to come back as Rusev or Miro, right? Like would they let him do the character switch a little bit? I don't have a problem with it being Rusev, but there is a part of me that kind of thinks it'd be kind of cool if they had since Miro's his real name, if they had let him be Miro and let that be part of his story change, like right because like oh I'm no longer the guy fighting for a country that really wasn't mine with an with a special accent and all that. Like I'm Miro, right? Like I'm not Rusev. Rusev's dead. But it's not a big deal. It just since we had mentioned it.
no, yeah. I mean, they could still do that in time, right? Like he taps into that side. Um, you,
Yeah, I'm sure they just want to do Rusev since they probably still own it.
yeah. Makes complete sense that way. You know what
Yeah.
I am getting excited for?
What's that?
I think he's a legit contender for next year's Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
Like he's like, and I think Aleister Black is too, right?
Yeah.
Like you'd have to say like that Rumble Final Four could be people we don't even think of right now, right? Like,
Since we know every once in a while they do like to troll AEW a little bit, let it be four guys that were at AEW.
you go
Let it let it be
Bureau
Rusev,
Black Saint and Ethan Page
Saints Page,
as four of the final
um
six, right?
or who's somebody else too. Like Saints Page is like maybe it's too much to do it. Saints I would say for sure. Um I'm trying to think of either other guys that have come from AEW or just like I don't know who else could potentially be there. Maybe there's somebody else. Oh, weren't they? Not that I would say this guy, but wasn't the story that they're meeting with Wardlow now too?
They did. That's been confirmed.
Yeah.
When
So
he was out on the West Coast, yeah, it was confirmed.
and like the only thing I liked Wardlow in AEW, but like the only thing I worry about is like he's just another like big strong guy and like like I don't know. Do you need another like Braun Strowman type guy, right? Like
I
right
don't think
now?
I don't think he fits in this version of what Triple H is trying to do.
No, I don't think so either.
I think if it was
Unless
Vince,
he's
sure.
got like an unless he's got like an untapped like charisma we don't know about that AEW can't bring out of him because they're not about the storyline as much. Like wrestling ability, I think he's learned a lot, and I'm sure WWE could teach him more. Uh, Creatively, I really don't know what he has. Maybe WWE can tap something that we haven't seen, but other than that, he's just another big, scary looking dude, and they have a lot of that,
You
you know.
you
And
you
they don't
know
do a lot with that anymore,
you
you know.
know what I would do if I signed him? Let him run wild in NXT for a bit. Back
Oh
him in a
yeah.
stable, and
Oh, I think for sure they would, you know.
just let him have fun there, right?
I
Like,
mean, that's why I would love for them, even though I'm saying this about Wardlow, like I would love for them to get a guy like Powerhouse Hobbs
yeah,
because I think you could do something with Hobbs in a stable and give Hobbs a little bit of creative behind him that could be really interesting. I mean, in AEW, I thought Ricky Starks and Hobbs together were great. I could see it being 10 times greater in the WWE family,
yeah,
you know? So
yeah,
you could do that with Wardlow. You could put him with a guy like Ricky Saints now, you know, and he could be a better version of Diesel to Shawn Michaels, right? Like
yeah,
for sure.
yeah. But I feel like those big guys that you do sign from AEW, they can make a career out of just staying around NXT, and they're still probably going to get paid close, like the same, not or maybe even more than what they got at AEW, right? But they know that they could be top tier guys at NXT, and they'll still have the opportunity to eventually go up big time. Like R- Ricky Saints is gonna be up within the next 3 months because WrestleMania is in New Orleans, and he said he wants to be on the card, right? Or he just makes his debut there somehow.
Yeah, I think so.
So
I think he'll be up. I think a few guys will be up.
and I,
Um,
and that Ethan Page signed to eventually be called up. I think Sean Spears. I think Sean Spears is very comfortable as being the guy that sticks around NXT.
yeah. Well, he's had a relatively like long career,
Very
for
successful
wrestling.
career too. Very underrated. I feel like
Yeah.
very underrated. So I think he's perfectly okay with just being the elder statesman there, right?
Well, that and I see him as a guy that probably eventually transitions to a backstage
Yep,
role.
correct. Because that's what he was supposed to start doing at AEW, but then it never went that way.
Right.
So yeah, makes complete
No, and
sense.
he's a Cody guy, right? Like so.
Yeah. Um, anything you're expecting to see on SmackDown this week? May 2nd?
I assume we'll see Alistair Black in action, but other than that, I don't know that.
Yep, you're correct. He's announced for first match back, May 2nd. Take
Yeah,
on The
so
Miz.
yeah, so I mean, yeah, that I mean, I guess we're gonna probably get more with what's going on with Jade and what's next. Um,
Probably
you
something
know,
with Jacob again, right?
yeah, yeah, probably. Although I don't know what's going on there. I assume that Solo and him are gonna have a problem, and it's gonna be those two, but I don't think that's necessarily right now. Like I don't see that for like Backlash. Um, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You think we get any Cena and Orton stuff? Or you think they
On
lay low this week?
SmackDown, yeah, I think they're gonna lay low. I mean, not to play into the gimmick a little bit, but it is a real like thing to think about. Like, how many dates does he have left? Are you gonna waste them?
No, right, right. You gotta extend it, right? So yeah, should be good. It's been good. So hopefully it continues that way. Um, there's one last thing I wanted to ask you about. Shoot. Oh, when are we getting the Judgment Day breakup?
And you don't know, I'm glad you said that because I meant to ask you about that too. I have no idea. It's like the slowest playing breakup ever. And I'm wondering why it's taking so long because it's clear that they're still going that way. They are just like talk about slow rolling it. I mean, this has been months. I feel like it's been months in the making. And the other thing I meant to ask you, unless I've missed it, have they stopped with the demon teases
So
for
there's
Finn?
so there's a story going around that somebody backstage wasn't a big fan of when he did it.
But why was it being teased in the first place? Because I can't imagine that that person didn't exist back then.
Right. So that's why I'm wondering if there's a new directive of what's going on with Judgment Day.
I still think they're going towards a breakup. Like they're
Yeah.
still doing the subtle hints, right? And this week it was like Finn kind of talking to JD, and JD is like, "Oh, well, I told Dom." It's like, yeah, Dom is replacing Finn as the leader, and that's going to be a problem for Finn, and it's going to lead to some sort of breakup, whether it's just Finn or if Finn convinces somebody to come along. And Liv's going to be out of the picture for a little bit, right? So for in real life, and they're writing that into story. And I assume that sort of means Raquel will fade into the background with that. So I don't know if like JD jumps with Finn, or if like Carlito jumps with them just for the hell of it, or if nobody jumps with them. But overall, it's like the slowest played breakup and turn I can think of.
Yeah, never thought the day would come when I would sit here and tell you, wow, I can't believe JD McDonough's the glue that keeps everything together. Right? Like,
Yeah,
because
for
that's kind
now.
of what it feels like when he came back. Um, I don't think anybody goes with Finn. I think Finn of eventually departs on his own. He disappears. Ideally, this is how I want it. Finn departs, goes on his own, disappears for a bit. First day back, we get the demon. Just
Yeah,
let it
that's
run
what.
wild. Just let the
Yeah,
demon run wild. And then I think,
I kind of thought that's what we were gonna get because they kept placing those demon
yeah.
things in those backstage promos, and now they're not doing that anymore.
And then I think Dom, JD, and Carlito kind of do their own thing. I think Liv going away in real life significantly hurts Raquel as a character.
Yeah, because what are you doing with her if she's not just tagging along with Liv,
Well, and
which
she'll
sucks.
come back and fumble her entrance all over again like she did the last time.
Right.
So, like, she just disappears completely off the roster. Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, I think she's great with Liv, but maybe this is good for her to get some time off to control that health issue that she's been battling. Not nothing against her personally. I just don't see her character bringing anything to Judgment Day. Don't you find it very weird if her character sticks around and Liv is gone? Because then who takes
No,
the
no, for
women's
sure.
tag titles then? Because with
No, I
Liv being gone, they're gonna have to drop those, right?
well, I don't even know for sure because like they made a point to have it in the promo that she's going to be gone for a little bit, and Nick Aldis saying, "Yeah, the paperwork's in order from what I know." Like I'm not sure they are going to drop them. I mean, those to be honest, they don't have a lot of focus on those belts anyway.
No,
Like ever. Like there's a part of me that thinks they just kind of want to get rid of them because they have trouble enough keeping women's tag teams. I mean, they don't have any true women's tag teams anymore, and the ones that they throw together like never last
yeah,
anyway. Like so, and they flip flop them all the time for no rhyme or reason. I kind of feel like they kind of want those to go away too. So I don't even know how long Liv's going to be away. I thought it was only going to be a few weeks.
yeah, it'll be interesting. Um, because it doesn't make
Yeah.
sense. It just
I mean, I've been saying this for a while. For me, that whole group doesn't make sense. Like it really doesn't. Like,
now it's starting to get there for me. It's just
you know,
like I feel like it could have been abolished 6 months ago, and everybody could have been on to better things right now. Um,
Yeah. Well, I've been saying it forever. Like to me, like Carlito just doesn't fit, doesn't make any sense. Like I don't know why you wouldn't just throw him with the LWO, like right? Because they don't do a lot with the LWO either, other than just kind of mention them.
right,
But like I don't know why you wouldn't just keep him around with that. You know, at least there's a connection you can make there. Like to me, he just doesn't fit. And then McDonough's fine. Finn and Dom were fine, and obviously Liv came along because of the Dom turn on Rhea, but long term that didn't make sense to me either, you know. So and they don't really play up the relationship anymore as much as they used to.
right.
So that storyline is not a focus anymore. So they could just do away with it, right? Like
Yeah, it doesn't make sense, man. Does not make sense. But
we'll see. Maybe her going away will be a catalyst for them doing it. It could
yeah,
make sense. You take away Liv, you take away Liv for a little bit, which ends up taking away Raquel. You get this Finn Dom JD thing going. Carlito just kind of fits into it in the background, but can also fade away too. You split the group and then they all go their separate ways, or Dom and JD stick together for a little bit. You know, I don't know. We'll
yeah,
see.
yeah. Um, one A AEW note I wanted to talk about before we end this today, in case you didn't have anything else. Uh,
Well, we never talked about the title lineage, so we can talk about that after you make your AEW note, and then we can end.
okay. You see the statement from Brian Danielson about his neck?
I did not.
My neck is trashed. So I guess speaking in recent interviews with Metro and Jamal Diaz, Danielson painted a picture of someone grappling with the physical toll of a 25-year career, but seemingly at peace with the possibility that it's basically over for him. Um, he said like the last 6 months of his career built up to to that. I look at it now as a blessing because this, those 6 months leading into my last match were so hard because my neck was so bad. And I mean, there were things I couldn't physically do. Um, he elaborated on the physical limitations by telling them that about his match in October of 24 with Okada, what story should be in that scenario is I'm pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing him, trying to get the fall done in the first 20 minutes. That should have been the story. But his legs just couldn't do it because of the neck injury. He said his neck is wrecked and he confirmed that he hasn't undergone surgery yet. He's making progress, but that still doesn't mean he'll have to get the surgery. He's trying to avoid it, and that's what his focus is on right now. He said, my priority is my health. My desire is not to get the neck surgery. If I could live comfortably without a neck surgery, but it means that I wouldn't get to wrestle again, I think I'd be okay with that trade off.
Well, I would hope so. Like Jesus Christ, you've got young kids.
No, so and then he just talks about how he's technically referred to as being a consultant with AEW. It's wild, man. We're getting old. We're seeing the end to Brian Danielson's career. Like, that's nuts, right?
It's interesting too because it wasn't all that long ago that he made that comment, like when he was doing the win the championship or be retired match, and he ended up winning. And in that press conference, he very clearly said that, look, I'm going to wrestle out this title, and then I'm going home, which doesn't mean I'll never wrestle again, but you know, I'm not going to be wrestling full time. But followed that up by saying, I feel so good that I could do this for 7 more years at a high level. That was like he only had like 5 more matches after that. Like it's not like he had like a year full of 10 matches a week, right? Like
No, I get
I
it.
don't know.
I get it, man. It's something. It's just wild, right? Because you like this is the scary part. Like as much as we love watching these guys, we always you always want to wish that they walk away on their own term and they walk away comfortable. Because then if they're not comfortable with how they walked away, that's when you see all the sad stories happen down the road, right? With drugs, with pills, you know, whatever it is. Um, you know what I mean? So maybe something popped up and um he's just tired of dealing with all the things that pop up with having that type of injury. So I just thought that was interesting because we don't talk about AW much because I haven't been able to keep up as much as I would like. But yeah, it's interesting. So yeah, what were your thoughts on the title lineage?
Well, I mean, just to come full circle on it, because it is my thing on this podcast, so I can't abandon it.
That's true.
Um, WWE has officially retired the Universal Championship. Um, they have um, quietly updated their website. The blue championship belt now has an end date of 2024. Roman was the last person to hold it officially according to their records, which again, like I I know this is like such a dumb thing for me to be like this way about, but for all of the stuff that you do creatively as a company and the people you have, like that blue belt was listed on Cody Rhodes' superstar page until he lost at WrestleMania. Like that belt like just looked like on paper he was carrying both belts. And then they randomly change it and they don't have Cody as ever holding it. I just think it's funny. But to come full circle on it, that belt is no longer an active belt in WWE. It has a 2016 to 2024 lineage, the Universal Championship.
Cena's gonna take the title home, Dan.
Yeah, maybe.
He's gonna take it home, and then a
Maybe.
brand new belt.
I, I certainly don't think Randy's going to take it from him.
No, 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 no.
I,
So
I am interested to see how they get around that. I mean,
a lot of
not that not that John can't beat Randy outright, but I
well,
just don't feel like he's going to.
that's an easy fix, Dan. Let's throw Travis Scott into it again.
Yeah, I don't
Again,
know if that's going to continue or not.
right? Because that makes sense. All 85 pounds of Travis Scott will get over on 285 pounds of chiseled Randy Orton. I'm sure the fans will love that.
Yeah, I don't know that I see that either.
Me either.
Um,
But
I see something happening just because, right? Like heels don't usually win clean. So
yeah, and I think it's been I know they gave Cody the Winged Eagle belt for the Saturday Night Main Event, and I know that belt that Cena has not technically old, but this definitely feels like they're in a perfect opportunity to transition to a new belt. I feel like it's just the perfect window. But then again, I'll have to give you a full 2 hours to go on a rant how that belt's not related to this belt, and technically,
no, it is that
AW
belt.
band.
No, no, that belt's lineage dates back to 1963.
Can you,
That
Dan? What would you do if somebody pulled out the spray paint?
I mean, that's never bothered me. Like, let's get the. You know what? Now, see, now you got to do this. You gotta do it. You're getting ready to go out on paternity leave, and you just gotta like poke and prod and fire me up for no reason. I never had a problem with the spray paint. I had a problem with the fact that they never acknowledged it in storyline. WWE would never do that, right?
Well,
I was always a fan of AEW. I am less of a fan today than I was, but for
yeah,
the first 3 to 5 years of AEW, I was a relatively big fan of it and did not criticize it nearly the way most people did. But I did heavily criticize. I liked that angle with them doing that with CM Punk spray painting that belt and calling it the Real World Championship. What I did not like was commentary ignoring it as if it wasn't a real, like, they acted like he was carrying a belt that was not sanctioned.
right,
Like they should have like done, because it wasn't like Hogan spraying the belt for
right,
WCW and NWO, right? Punk just took a belt that in theory he never dropped,
right.
spray painted an X on it, and then said, I'm the real world champion because nobody ever beat me for this. And AEW was like, well, yeah, he's the real world champion. I mean, they even put it on the scroll. It was like, wait a minute. Like, what? So, um,
No, I get it. Yeah, it's I don't know. It for some reason I've been thinking this for a couple of weeks. Like with this whole Cena story and him ruining wrestling, it feels like the perfect opportunity to just them to throw in a belt and they can consolidate some stuff and fans will be like, okay, cool. Here's $800. Right? Like,
yeah, I mean, I think I've been clear, right? And you're mostly with me. Like, I'm not really a fan of two champions, right? Like
yeah,
across the board. Like,
I think
I know
it's
they don't market it anymore as brand championships, which I really hated.
yeah,
But I at least will say this is better than Raw champion and SmackDown champion, but it's only a little bit better than that. It's in general, I don't love it. Like you have a WWE champion and you have a world heavyweight champion. Again, if you want to look at the lineage part, the world heavyweight champion has its own lineage that started in 2023. It doesn't connect to the WCW belt, which would connect to the NWA belt, right? Like, you know, it should, in my opinion, if you want to make it a legitimate world heavyweight belt, right? That's my biggest issue with it. I still wouldn't love two champions, but at least I could sit there and say, well, you're using a historical championship,
yeah,
right? Like, but they're not doing that. They made their own, which is just like, whatever. But yeah, I wouldn't mind them consolidating both the women's and the men's again, making it one belt. You have intercontinental championships in both divisions now, which used to be the excuse for why you needed two women's champions because you didn't have a mid-level championship, right? You didn't have the Intercontinental, which was
right,
always champion junior, right?
right,
Like you think back to the old days of WWE, the Intercontinental champion was the next guy up, right? He was the middle of the road champion that, was, probably not the biggest superstar, but he was on his way to being the biggest superstar. So you have that now. You're fluid enough with your brands that it doesn't matter. Like draft day, yeah, you can draft the champions separately and then pretend they are whatever, and then that's fine. So, I mean, it's the same thing. They have two tag team championships. That's just dumb.
yeah,
To me, it's just dumb. So, and it's the same problem with the tag team championships. Their lineage is not connected to the championship of the 90s.
yeah. That's why I think what you stated, like that's why I think to me it feels like we're at a point where they can overhaul and consolidate it because it feels like how it felt before when they did some consolidation. So I think that's gonna be how it goes.
You know what's really
Soon.
actually, now that I'm looking at it on their website, they don't even have a tag team championship that dates past older than 2002. They have no belt that represents the tag teams of the 90s and the 80s, which is just weird. Like,
Yeah.
why? It's such a dumb thing that I get on a rant about it. I recognize that. But like, it is something that should be easy to like keep track of and have for historic, like, so if I'm looking at this, Legion of Doom, Demolition, the Rockers, all of them never had a tag team championship on WWE's website.
Well, and it goes hand in hand with they do the Hall of Fame every year, so they should be able to show it through the titles of why these people are getting Hall of Fame accommodations.
It's just, and I mean, like, obviously they still recognize that those people were champions, but like, it's just weird that it's a small detail on their website that they don't
Right.
catch,
Right. Well,
you
and
know?
it's the same thing they do every year with the encyclopedias. Like once every fall, they put out a new WWE encyclopedia. So like they constantly post stuff in there too. So yeah, it's definitely some stuff that they gotta clean up behind the lines. No, I'm with you.
Yeah. It's just such a weird detail to not be on top of,
Yeah,
you know?
right. It kind of it almost feels like no effort. I guess is the best way to put it.
And I think, but that's what happens when, because you became so fast and loose with like creating and introducing and remaking championships, right? Because like you split the tag titles for a while, then you combined them again, then you made those red and blue ones, and then you combined them again, but now you went back to having two sets, and one looks like the old tag belt, which I really like. The other one's that more circular that I hate. Um, but neither of those have a lineage that goes. The one goes to 2016. The other one goes to 2002.
Yeah.
And fun fact: the on their website, the first holders of those belts were Heath Slater and Rhino.
Oh, I forgot about Rhino.
Yeah,
Forgot
and then
about Rhino.
The Wyatt family right after that. That was back in 2016.
Nice. Yeah.
So
So definitely something they could clean up for it to be better. Um, but we'll see what happens. Hopefully they do it. Side note for anybody that does have WWE 2K25, there was a universe mode patch to help with some of the bugs and to update some items in there as well. So check that out if you'd had the game. I haven't been able to jump into universe mode yet, but I'm looking forward to that because I've heard some very good things. Um, yeah, so we shall see. But on that note, Dan, anything else you would like to talk about tonight on Botch Wrestling Podcast?
I think that's it. I don't know. Like, do we have any schedule changes we should announce, or we're just gonna play it by ear?
Hopefully, the goal is to
Hopefully
be
nothing
home.
changes.
Yeah,
Okay.
hopefully the goal is to be home by next week. If I'm not home by the
I just
beginning of
meant.
next week,
No, I just meant too. Like your responsibility in life is about to double. Congratulations. But
yeah, I'm gonna be a wise man to not one savage, but to two savages now that are gonna be running around pretty soon. Have my own tag team going. But yeah,
that's right.
we
In
shall.
in and my vote's on he's gonna have the first intergender tag team champions. But
I'm all
you
for it.
know,
I'm all for it.
a lot of other people in his family thinks he's only gonna have one gender tag team. So
I'm all
we'll see.
for it. We'll see. But yeah, follow us on Instagram, Blue Sky, and on YouTube. I'll have this up tomorrow evening ish and ready to go, and then I will be on Blue Sky. We'll be on Blue Sky to talk about when our next episode will be up. But I'm hoping for the middle of next week sometime, once everything settles down for us. But until then, like, comment, subscribe, share it to a friend. It greatly helps us to get up in the algorithm of all the other wrestling nonsense that occurs on YouTube. So much appreciated, and we will be back soon, people. Adios.